Hey everybody, before we get started, just to remind you, this episode is brought to you by our patrons like I Got Comics, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, Mr. Flores, Sodasun0424, and VideoGamer75. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it'll help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to Enter the Dojo, the series about L5R schools and stuff that is totally on schedule. Yay, go me. So today we're going to talk about the Ikoma Bard school, which is a Courtier school. So in general, I don't think there's a lot of stuff to go on. I heard feedback from several people about the audio quality of the last one, so I'm going to try and keep that in mind. Sometimes I run it through I run segments, because this isn't recorded like all as one big blob file, so I can do assets and stuff. Anyway. Sometimes I run sections through, like, click removal to get through some of the extra noise, but I also know that kind of makes the audio choppy, so I'm going to avoid that if at all possible. That does mean you guys may have to listen out for the occasional time where I click my tongue, or you might hear my mouse in the background. These things are like an hour long to record. That means they're very long to audio edit all the parts, so complete editing of little bits like that is out of the question at the moment. We just don't have the resources for that. We'll try and keep that better. And another thing is, at least one person pointed out to me that sometimes my audio shifts. I have a polar microphone, so if you enjoy this high level of mic quality, I can't really, keep it positioned over my face. I'd have to, constantly be scooching it around to do that. And let me see. It's not as loud as I thought it would be, but it's still, there's a chance that it'll get creaky and stuff, so I try to avoid that. That may just mean if I'm, thinking or something, and, I'm moving my head around, I might sound like I'm a little bit distant. We normalize some stuff out, so I'm not, super loud or super soft, but you may have to deal with it. Just think of it as, an ASMR thing, because I actually talk to you guys like you're here, like you're right in front of me, so there's some angling, there's some hand gestures you never see. Anyway, we're through all that. Let's go ahead and skip the intro parts, and we'll talk about the Ikoma Bard School in detail. Though I guess I should say that in case this is your first enter the dojo, the point here is basically, I hear a lot of people say, especially as this game goes on, oh, this school's really good, or this school kind of sucks, or what does this school even do? So I was like, what do these schools even do? So I built this format to basically kind of deep dive into the schools and be like, okay, so here's what I'm pretty sure the rules say about, say, this ability or this skill or whatever in this school, and then I'm like, and here's kind of what I interpret the way you might use that in a game and stuff, and we also kind of talk about, what different characterization you can get. Hey, expect a lot of that today with Ikoma. With your technique selections, there's some very interesting ways you can take a character, so we'll deep dive into all that later. But yeah, so that's basically what this is we're going to break down talking about, the school, its various components. We'll talk a little bit about the clan and families you can take, but mostly from the Lion Clan, because synergy and, I try to keep it focused. If I, considered literally everything, we'd be here forever. But anyway, so, that's the intro. Let's move into talking about the school a little bit, set that all up. So, Ikoma. Specifically, Ikoma Bard School, Courtier tagged, because there's another Ikoma school in Quartz of Stone, but we'll talk some about that later. So, right off the bat, you can see your rings. I think the rings you get for this school pretty much define what you're going for here. You got fire and water. So you've got your kind of fiery emotional presence, or you got your gregarious, charming presence. Fire can be both good and bad kind of stuff. You can inspire, a certain amount of desire or anger or push people, but you can also, fear and stuff. Water's very flexible, very charming. So that's kind of what you're dealing with here. So the skills you can pick 5 from. And these include composition, courtesy, culture, martial arts ranged, performance, sentiment, and tactics. So you can see the lion influence there. So you've got courtesy and culture, pretty key, I think, for most courtier types. You've got performance and sentiment. Those are also pretty valuable. Composition makes sense because Ikoma are historians and storytellers, so the ability to write stuff down in an artistic sense matters. And then you've got tactics and martial arts ranged because you're a fucking lion, dude. So, obviously you can pick 5 of these. I would say that courtesy and culture are probably your core picks, for your character, and then maybe sentiment, and then you pick whatever else you want. If you want to be a more artistic bard, you could definitely pick up composition and performance, like, and really play to your school's history and strengths of being a performer, a storyteller, a writer. Or you could totally take tactics and martial arts ranged, right, and be like, yo, I have fighting ability. All right, so that's a very interesting choice. Kind of depends on you. You could go more hardcore, I think, if you wanted to build a character who could also be a fighter. We'll talk about some of that later when we talk about your curriculum selections. Only honor 45, not the highest, not the lowest. Very median. Obviously, the techniques available to you are kata, rituals, and shuji, pretty typical for courtiers or bushi. So, for starting techniques, this surprised me when I realized this, because I didn't look that closely at it, but you get to start with the Warrior's Resolve kata, which is you spend a void point to reduce your fatigue by an amount, because you don't need the ability to reduce strife, but we'll talk about that in a second. We really will. But you also get both, unless my notes are crazily mistaken. I'll double-check myself, because I have a hard time believing it. Nope, that's not choose one. That is, in fact, you do. I'm looking at the PDF right now. You get Fanning the Flames and Tributaries of Trade. So you get 2 rank 2 Shujis at rank 1, which is a very powerful selection. Not as cool as the Miyamoto get a rank 3 Shuji at rank 1, but anyway. So to really quickly recap what those do, in case you haven't heard them before, let's see, what was the first one? Fanning the Flames. So Fanning the Flames is when you make a social skill fire, you can spend opportunity to make them dazed or enraged. Pretty typical, makes 100% sense for the school. And then Tributaries of Trade is the water one, which is once per scene as a scheme and support, you make a commerce water check. A really low TN, so you don't even need that freaking commerce skill to establish that you have acquired a chosen item earlier. And so basically it's just like, you pick it up at your last opportunity, you send out an attendant to get it. I think you still have to, like, figure out some kind of price or something for it, since it doesn't necessarily ignore it, but it's just like, oh, I've procured just the thing earlier. It's pretty handy. And if you are going to play a more calm, relaxed, friendly Ikoma, you're going to lean on that one a lot for gifts and be like, oh, hey, I have just the thing for you. But Fanning the Flames is great, because you're probably going to, like we said, Fire and Water are your core rings for this school. Kind of. We'll talk about forming Captain Shuji later. But you're definitely going to lean on those 2 rings, I think, a lot. So you're going to make some social checks, fires. You're a bard. The Ikoma family is known for being the expressive arm of the lion. They are one of the few samurai to express emotions openly. And it is to my understanding that the reason why they quote-unquote get away with that is because they express emotion on the behalfs of others. So you're not angry as an Ikoma Bard. My buddy, the Akodo here, furious. Because he's a good samurai, he's stoic, but I am his friend. I will elaborate on his anger. He is very angry right now. How dare you? How very dare you, sir? That's an Ikoma. Or like, my Akodo friend, he's dreadfully sad. Oh, I cry the tears for him, stuff like that. And yes, I do imagine that the Ikoma are a little bit melodramatic. They are, after all, called the Bard School. So let's get the big one out of the way. Let's talk about this ability. Heart of the Lion, school ability. Once per scene, after you perform a check using a social skill that targets 1 or more characters. This really should read other characters, I think, FFG, but whatever. I guess it doesn't matter if you agitate or console yourself. But yeah, you can choose to agitate or console. If you agitate, transfer strife up to twice your school rank from yourself to your targets, divided how you choose. If you console, transfer strife up to twice your school rank from your targets, divided them as you choose, to yourself. So yeah, this is your capstone. This is you're not your capstone, because that'd be your mastery ability. This is your core ability as an Ikoma. It encapsulates what this school is about very well. You can be talking to one person, you can be talking to a crowd, you can drop a bomb on them, you can turn your strife, your emotional disturbance against them. Bam, you're super stressed out right now. And then console is like, okay, no, hold on, I'm going to suck up all your strife and stick it onto me, and I'll get rid of it later. Not in the same scene, because you can't use this twice in the same scene. So, lots of people say this ability is really powerful, especially for certain circumstances, i.e. duels. So, first off, I will say, this ability is pretty good. It's limited to once per scene, but the fact that it is up to twice your school rank, that's huge. Most abilities are school rank based, if they have a scaling ability at all. So, like, double your school rank? Ooh, that's nasty. Like, you get up there, you're talking about 6, 8, 10, 12. If you get your mastery, that's technically rank 6. That's huge blobs at a time. Or, you can siphon off 2 from up to, like, 5 or 6 people. Really good. So, People also say, though, that this is really good in duels because you can, what I usually people call this is you can strife bomb them. You can take all the strife you're picking up from, like, initiative bids or whatever, or just the ticking clock, and then slap this on the other guy. Oh, shoot, he just took 2 or 4 strife. Because you've probably got that much lying around if you're in a duel, and that probably pushed him over. Sorry, throat's a little scratchy. I'm trying to cough away from the microphone, so that might also affect my audio position. Sorry about that. Now, I will say, yes, that is good, and that is a thing you can do, and given you've got a couple of martial skills in here, I don't necessarily think that's wrong that Ikoma can do dueling. One thing that I do like about this system, or at least this version of the system, and I like about the fluff, is that, like, just because people say X school should be the best duelist, or this clan produces the best duelists, like, doesn't necessarily mean it's always been true. There have been plenty of instances of non-standard duels and dueling, in the old canon, which may or may not still be true. We know that they died, one guy died, but we don't know necessarily the circumstances. But Hida Yakumo killed Muramoto Hitomi's brother in a duel with a Tetsubo, just crushed his fucking head. Like, that's not standard Iaijutsu, but that happened. That's an event that occurred. And he got away with it because of metaplot reasons that we're not going to go into, because this is not this kind of a video. But yeah, so non-standard solutions to duels, A-okay. That's fine. That said, I've said this before, I have a very strict reading of making a check. Like, the way the core rulebook says, the circumstances to making a check. The first thing you're supposed to do is figure out, they don't put it this way, but basically you're supposed to figure out the stakes, right? Like, the player has to declare an intent of what they're going to do, and then as the GM, and a little bit as the player, you have to figure out, okay, what's the risk here? Is there a chance of failure? Is there a chance of success? Are these two states different, right? Like, is the result going to be different depending on whether or not you succeed or fail? So if there's nothing dramatic happening, there's no dramatic difference between success and failure, you shouldn't roll at all. Which means, as a GM, and at least if you take that strict reading that I do of the way this is set up, when you're making skill checks, you can't make skill checks just to spend opportunity or just to activate special abilities, at least to me. The game says that the failure and success state has to matter, so it has to matter. This means you can't just go, I'm going to roll, command fire just so I can activate my Heart of the Lion. No, you have to roll command fire for a reason, and you have to describe, obviously, that you're actually going for it with that action. Though I guess it's a duel, so you're in a stance, so it would be fire regardless, but, like, that would fluff kind of what you're doing with your rolls, But yeah, so in a vacuum, sure, it's good. All you have to do is make a social skill check, but like I said, you have to remember that, like, social skills have meaning and stuff, and you can't necessarily just roll command and be like, I make you afraid. Okay, you made him afraid, you didn't make him afraid. What does that change in the circumstance, right? Now, obviously, maybe you could stake, like, glory on it, like, whether or not you look like an asshole in front of everybody, to be like, can I make him look like an asshole, right? Can you make your enemy maybe flinch, or, look like they're gonna lose glory, or, make them lose glory, maybe, in a public setting, embarrass them, make them lose face. Narrative consequences, too, like, have everybody remember that he was really pissed off and lost his face during a duel kind of thing, and then you can work in Heart of the Lion. That would be a really good one, but it is powerful, so I'm going to make you work for it, right? Like, you have to find the right context when you can drop this ability on people. I am with that with opportunities. I am with that with abilities like Heart of the Lion. Like, you can make a social check. You're allowed to, if you have a non-standard action you want to take, you can figure out how it is, but checks have success and failure. Like I said, you can't just make them to make them. That's against the spirit of the game, I think. So, Heart of the Lion, really good. You can, in fact, build a duelist out of an Ikoma Bard, and you'd probably do some fun stuff. I feel like maybe the new one, I really have to see the curriculum table. It's all just rumors and early release stuff. But maybe the second one's better at that. But anyway, you could totally do that, and I approve, like I said, of non-standard duelist builds. But it's not like a guaranteed 100% thing. Like, last time I talked about that Shosuro, Wombo combo, Skulk and Initiative immediately into, Iaijutsu Veiled Menace, because technically that should work, as far as I understand, like, the interactions of, like, attack action and one-handed and stuff. But if you want to pop that opportunity to use Skulk, you have to, like, actually explain how you're in a circumstance where you can get out of sight kind of thing, right? It's the same with Heart of the Lion. You have to explain to me how and why you're making a social skill check that you want to drop Heart of the Lion on. Okay, everybody got that out of question? Heart of the Lion, good. Not necessarily as universally applicable as people think it is. Cool. So starting outfit. So you get traveling clothes. You get a wakizashi, obviously. You can choose either Yari or Tessen, which is a super interesting one. I would think most characters would go for Tessen. The Iron Fan it's makes more sense as a ceremonial concealable thing, but fuck it. I don't know your life. You could take a Yari. That could totally be on theme for you. Or you get a Yumi for sure, which is good because you actually have martial arts ranged in there. Get a quiver of arrows. You get a traveling pack. You get any one musical instrument for free, which is cool. And you get a little journal, because you're a writer. You're supposed to write some shit down. So yeah, that's your kind of high level. You can see kind of your skill selection. You got a little bit of artistry in there. You know, if you want to actually use your musical instrument, you might want to pick performance, for instance. You can consider that. You could maybe consider that a core skill of what you're doing. Or you could just go the completely straight courtier route. We're going to see a lot of that back and forth about what sort of Ikoma you actually want to be as we talk about techniques, which we will go ahead and jump into. So, we are now on school curriculum. As always, ignore the left side of your screen completely. We will talk about technique recommendations later. For now, focus on this box that I have, yes, screen capped and cropped from my own PDF. That's fair use, right? On your right side here. Though I will say already, you may notice if you're looking down this curriculum, you get a Fire Shuji, Water Shuji, Earth Shuji, Air Shuji, and then Void Shuji. Hence my joke earlier that at the end of this, you will become Captain Shuji and form all 5 elements together. But like I said, we'll talk about what those good options are later. So let's start moving down your skill selections and your technique selections for advancement here. So at rank 1, you get social skills as a group. This is a good one. It gives you a little bit of flexibility depending on what you either picked for your starting skills or what you want to go in. Obviously, this lets you pick either courtesy or performance if those are your keys, but also could let you go other routes. You could pick up command and it counts. Command might be very useful, especially with one of the Shuji you can take at this rank. We'll talk about that in a second. Or you could, branch out into games also. Keep your stuff flexible. For a social character, for courtiers, social skills as a group is a very flexible pick, I think. So you can take composition also, culture or martial arts melee. If you are going to be a fighter, you get martial arts melee right there. That's a good one to balance out some of your other options. It's right there in your curriculum, so there's no point in not buying a point of it because skills are cheap and it fully counts, right? So that's a good one. Composition, obviously, you're a writer. If you want to go a more artistic route, there's some stuff you can do with arts. And culture is just a great skill to have for you. It's a good knowledge skill to have, so doubling up on there. You want to end this with lots of culture, I think. So you can pick a rank 1 Fire Shuji. We'll talk about some options you have for what qualifies there. And important to note, remember, you can always buy anything you're permitted to do out of curriculum. It just counts for less points. So, hey, if you want to fuel those strife bombs, you want to rank up. So you can, work around it. You get 2 technique selections. You can get Soaring Slice, which is a kata we've talked about several times before. It's a pretty good rank 1 kata. It lets you throw melee weapons. Or throw any kind of weapon. Technically, you can throw arrows if you wanted at an enemy. Or technically, I guess you'd throw your bow. I don't know. I'd have to think about it really hard. Just shoot him if you're doing that, anyway. But you can throw a weapon you have at a range different than its starting range. So you can throw knives, spears, throw your Tessen at people. That's a pretty good one. I mean, obviously, you can have ranged options, but you never know when you can't carry a Yumi somewhere. So then it's like, boom, Tessen throw. It's a solid choice if you're going to go a more combative route and gives you a nice little trick up your sleeve, which is something I think Ikoma are known for, is having a little bit of that tricksiness. You don't have to buy it, but the amount of XP it costs to get your ranks, you might as well buy in curriculum. And then you can get access to Slippery Maneuvers, which is normally a rank 2 Water Shuji. This means that you can get both rank 2 Water Shujis at rank 1. Funnily enough, we'll talk about that when we come back to connect. But we've talked about Slippery Maneuvers before. This is a command check, so hey, there's a reason to take that, which is water, though. It can only be used during mass battles or skirmishes, so this is good if you're trying to make a courtier who can actually be useful in a fight. And basically, you get to move targets towards a position. That position becomes obscuring terrain for the rest of the encounter. And you can spend an opportunity to make that even better effect. So, yes, really good if you're trying to build a more leaderly, especially if you're trying to get into mass battles, because it applies there. a more leaderly or direct character out of your Ikoma, which makes sense for being a lion. Otherwise, it's just good because it gives you a supportive option in combat that's not hitting people. Though, hey, you could have picked martial arts ranged at start, you can pick martial arts melee in your career, and you can pick up soaring slice, so you can probably fight people too. Don't ever be afraid to take a little bit of fighting. So moving up to rank 2, now you can take any martial skill. This is a really broad area that I think is good. You can use it to improve your initiative stuff. You can use it to improve your fitness if that's kind of your thing. Or you can be like, hey, let's pick up a second point in my martial arts. A really broad aspect if you want to keep your combats up or want to diversify. Still counts for stuff. So, you can also pick up as single skills, command, performance, or sentiment. You're probably going to want to pick all of these for your character. If you're not trying to be more leaderly, you might skip command, but I think all of these will end up being useful for you. Especially if you did pick up slippery maneuvers at rank 1, which you should have, because slippery maneuvers is real good. But performance and sentiment, hey, you have core skills. Who could have guessed? Sentiment, I think, is good for an Ikoma because you're probably going to want to read people's emotional states, both your friends and your enemies kind of thing. So it can be really useful in lots of scenes for you. Otherwise, there's not a lot of diversity in this rank with those two choices. Like, martial skills, obviously, you can, bend it however you like. Are you trying to capitalize on, like, soaring slice, or the fact that you can take spinning blade style and, double weapon up on people, that kind of thing. Tessin in one hand, Wakizashi in the other. Who knows, maybe you're a lunatic and maybe you're a courtier who carries a katana. If you are actually going to try and be a duelist, that works. Or, hey, you could take unarmed for your martial skills and then combine that with spinning blades, punch, punch, kick, or something like that. Very flexible. Sentiment is really good for that. Performance is probably a key skill. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, just for how your character is, you're probably going to take it a lot. Maybe you don't want to be courteous. That could even be a thing. It's like, no, fuck courtesy. I am all either telling people what to do or I am performing to people in some sense. You might probably want a little bit of that courtesy, though, because that's good for high-ranking people, which is an important thing to remember. So we already talked about it. You can take spinning blade style as one of your techniques. Decent selection as a kata. You can also get access to dazzling performance, which is normally a rank 3 fire Shuji. And basically, when you make an artisan games or performance, see what I mean? You get a new way to spend opportunity. And then basically, the next time you receive glory in this scene, increase the amount by 1. If there's a character of higher status in the scene, increase by 1 per op spent this way. So basically, you get to make yourself look really good and get lots of glory out of it. This is pretty key. You are going to be performing a lot, probably. Or maybe you took games. You never know. Like I said, you got social flexibility. And you also have artisan skills. We talked about this. You will probably have a bit of composition before this is over. So, dazzling performance is a really good selection. It blends in with some stuff. Hey, speaking of composition, so at rank 3, you can take scholar skills. This is pretty open-ended. Maybe you want more sentiment. Maybe you want more culture. You've got a rank of government in the next block, so maybe you want to shore that up and get your full EXP. I don't know. You'll probably end up investing decently in what you want anyway, but this is all about where does that XP come from? Because it gets bigger and bigger every time you rank up, so. And then for regular skills, you've got composition and performance, pretty core skills. And then you got a rank in survival. That might be a little weird, but hey, it's in your school rank, why not take it? I do think survival's a little odd, foraging for supplies. Commerce might have been a better choice, considering you get access to tributaries of trade, but I don't know, you can decide whether or not you want to take it. And then you've got Earth Shuji. And then you've got 2 Shujis now. Yes, there are no more katas in this curriculum. If you want to take higher level katas, you're going to have to do that at half XP on your own time. Apparently, after turning into a whirlwind of blades and or punching, the Ikoma school stops teaching you more about hitting people. And also interesting, you get a couple instances of range. Technically, I'm pretty sure soaring slice is not necessarily, you can use whatever martial skill is appropriate, but if you have a ranged weapon, you're probably not throwing it at people, especially because you probably have a good water ring, which means you can move and shoot and stuff like that. So there's no, Hawk's Precision. Pelting Hail, for instance, is a great out-of-curriculum spend if you are focusing on ranged, but that's a different discussion altogether. All the techniques you can possibly take that don't count as your curriculum is a whole different thing, which is why we don't talk about them. The analysis is the school and what the school gives you. But first up, you can take Rallying Cry. I believe, that's a rank 3 fire. So you make a command or performance fire test, both of your core social skills, targeting any number of characters, and basically they get extra dice. You can also do this in a mass battle or skirmish and spend some op to give your enemies strife or panic. You know, real key for you. Really plays to your effect to, like, energize people, keep them going, smack some dudes around, slap some strife on there. A good technique you can take to help your friends. Then you get access to Regal Bearing. That's a rank 4 water? Yes, that's rank 4 water. So we've talked about these kinds of Shuji before. This is pretty basic. This lets your status appear higher, which is a really weird effect. Or lower, which if you want to be a little bit shifty, Ikoma can be shifty. We'll talk about the different ways you can flavor your Ikoma, for instance, when we get to technique selection, but either positive or negative, this is interesting. Though I will say it's a little weird that you can, like, go as high as 100. Like, you can... That doesn't make much narrative sense that you can, like, theoretically bluff yourself to appear to be on the level of the Emperor. I don't know. Kind of strange. Or unless the Emperor is, like, 101 or something. Anyway, basically, people can't tell your actual status unless they pass a sentiment check. And you can also spend an opportunity to choose a character in the scene and learn if their status is higher or lower than yours. This is a pretty good one for you. This will let you appear with more authority than you have, or appear with less authority if you're trying to be on the down low, you know. These 3 Shuji, the ones that are like honor, glory status, are all very useful to most social characters, and even some martial ones. So at rank 4, social skills comes up again. That's a really good broad one. Like I said, we'll talk more about your different flavors when we get to technique recommendations. So you pick whatever would make sense to you at this point, you know, for the character. You get government. Like I said, you get a little bit of that. That makes some sense for you. You know, you're supposed to be historians. At the same time, you're a storyteller first, I think, is kind of the idea. But it would help if you knew history at some point. And hey, it counts as a rank. And you get sentiment. And another martial arts ranged. You can pick a rank 1 for Air Shuji. You can get then Sear the Wound and Pillar of Calm. So Sear the Wound is an early access. That's a Fire 5. Yeah, so when you make a social skill Fire, you choose one of the target's disadvantages per opportunity. You make their disadvantage apply to everything for the rest of the scene. Really nasty, dropping this bomb on somebody. And very much in character for you. So you'd probably want to pick it up anyway. The fact that you get access to it early, very good. And then, which one is this? Is that Pillar of Calm? There's like 3 or 4 Earth Shujis in some of the higher ranks, which all have similar effects, and I always forget. Okay, so Pillar of Calm is the one that is a command, and if you succeed in targeting all the leaders in a conflict, you de-escalate the conflict 1 level. So, mass battle becomes a skirmish becomes a duel becomes an intrigue. And then if you have 2 opportunities, you can de-escalate it a higher level. So, this makes sense for you. Like, obviously, you can be a mass battle character, but maybe it makes more sense for you to be like, yo, skirmish. Or maybe it makes more sense for you to be like, if you're facing a rabble, you're like, whoa, no way, man. Let's settle this like men. My Akodo and or Matsu friend over here will take you on. Or, you know, you're a duelist too. Like I said, unusual duel builds. Or like, whoa, there's no need for anybody to duel. I'm sure we can settle this with words. Words are stronger than steel, after all. So Pillar of Calm is a very good one. And hey, you can pick it up in your curriculum, which, you know, the full XP count is really what we're going for here. I am presuming that most characters want to move through their school ranks at a decent clip. So I would say that neither of these Shujis are ones like, I can skip and pick it up later. No, you should take these opportunities. They don't cost a lot of XP, and you want to make stuff count towards your rank. So at rank 5, Scholar Skills comes back. There's 2 of those in here. So Martial Skills is the only thing you get 1 of once. You know, pick whatever you like. Government, culture, sentiment, medicine. Nah, play Kitsu Medic if you want to do medicine. But you can get command, performance, and meditation. A little weird that meditation is in the back there, but hey, maybe after getting Pillar of Calm, you decided you're going to be a duelist. You know, at this point, you're rank 5. You could do a lot of damage with that Strife Bomb. Maybe you want the meditation. Maybe you just want to be cool and relaxed. But performance is a core, and so is command. And then you get 2 more Shujis. You can pick up in curriculum, Bend with the Storm, and hold on, sorry, I backed away from my microphone for a second there. Point of Rival. Let's talk about Point of Rival first, because that's closer. But Buoyant Arrival is the rank 5 water. I think we talked about this last time with Shosuro and some other schools. This is basically, you make a courtesy water check, and the TN's equal to vigilance, so maybe don't ignore your courtesy if you want to use this. But basically, if you succeed, you can enter or leave a scene gracefully, or enter or leave a conversation gracefully, and be like, whoop, I'm out. Or, hey, excuse me, I want to really be in this conversation. With no sacrifice, honor, or glory to interrupt, depart, or preempt someone, even if they're status. So, like, theoretically, though I would imagine the Emperor had a shitload of vigilance, you could be like, the Emperor is having a private conversation with the Imperial Advisor and his Imperial Chancellor, and if you pop Buoyant Arrival correctly, you just whoop into the scene and be like, excuse me, my lord. I can't help it over here. No, that's why the Emperor is surrounded by Sepun at all times, to prevent assholes from doing that. But anyway, Buoyant Arrival is good. And then, what's the other one? Bend with the Storm, right, that's an air. So, Bendo with the Storm is the rank 5 air. Is there a second rank 5 air? No, I don't think so. Anyway, Bend with the Storm. When you make a social skill air check, you can spend a new opportunity. And basically, you get to shenanigans people into thinking you possess an advantage or disadvantage without making it obvious. So, this is another weird one, but much like popping Regal Bearing, popping Bend with the Storm lets you think you are better at things or have a narrative disadvantage or advantage than others do. So you could make yourself be like, oh, I'm a paragon of honesty, or I'm a paragon of sincerity. I'm famously honest. That's right. That's the correct one. Something like that, and just kind of like slip it in there subtly if you're making air checks. I'll be honest, Ben, like, obviously, if you're at rank 5, you really want that rank 6 ability, you're probably going to take it just to get your EXP up if you're doing that route. But from a narrative sense, I don't know how much you have been using air techniques. Like, air is a lot of Weasley stuff. It's like, ooh, I'm a straight up live, or I'm going to imply, or I'm going to lie through omission. I don't know if as an Ikoma you're necessarily going that route a lot. Maybe you're just like, no, dude, let's just be friends. Or you're fire and you are like, anger, lust, hate, fear, core emotions, firing. So I don't know if you're dropping air on a lot of people. Like Earth, especially since we talked about, remember, the Ikoma are a family of historians and storytellers. Having a good Earth ring to recall stuff, recollect, summon your memories, that makes sense. Not to say you can't use an air approach, but I don't know if necessarily you will be primarily using air and have thus much opportunity to spend the op. I should really have found a different way to say that, because opportunity. When you get to rank 6, though, you get a mastery ability, an action, Lion's Pride. Once per game session, as a support action, you may attempt to convince everyone in the scene of the glorious reputation of one character, embellishing the truth as needed, by making a TN5 performance fire check. So you're going to go to fire, targeting one character. If it's yourself, the TN is increased by 1 to 6. If the target is another Lion Clan character, TN's 4, so it goes down by 1. If you succeed, reduce the TN of the character's social skill checks by 3 until the end of the scene, and all other checks by 1. So, holy shit! Like that's the Ikoma in a nutshell, right there. Is the boom. I'm gonna talk really well about this guy. Like, you can try and upsell yourself. You probably have enough fire to make it work, though you won't necessarily get a lot of opportunity on it. But God help you if you run a Lion Clan game. This guy's gonna make some people real great. But, yeah, that ability for the rest of the scene, just, start of an intrigue. Oh, man, it's a really big policy debate or something. We gotta get down there. Hold up, the Ikoma drops Lion's Pride. He's your MC. Let me talk up my boy here. He's good at this, and that, and the other thing. How dare you suggest otherwise? Boom. Mic drop, or drop Tessin drop, I guess would be this case. Get out of there. That guy's greater at everything. Hey, maybe not yourself, but you're about to start a duel. And you want to be like, hey, GM, can I brag to other people in this scene about how good this is, and how cool he is? Like, maybe you'd be risking honor or glory in that, but I would totally see from the sidelines. Like, that's another thing. I'm actually not super harsh on cheerleading in duels to get other people involved. Like, obviously, a duel scene should really be between two people, but if you're out in public, there's no reason why other people can't try and shenanigans their way in it. It's just that, like, heck, we got an example of that in the story. It's just that there should be risks involved. Anyway. So Lion's Pride, great ability, very much encapsulates the school. You're better at making other people really rad, but it's harder for yourself. So let's move over to the left side now. Let's talk about those technique recommendations. So at every rank, you have the ability to take from pull. So I'm going to recommend to you some Shuji, since they're all Shuji groups, that you can pick which would make sense for your character and why, and then thus give you full count towards your curriculum. Because, hey, you really want to get up to Lion's Pride. So at rank 1, you can pick a rank 1 Fire Shuji. Basically, you'll notice all 3 of these are on here. Yes. Depending on what you want to do, you can do all 3. So let's cover them all kind of in outline. And now we're going to start talking about, like, what kind of Ikoma are you? So the 3 rank 1s are Sensational Distraction, Stirring the Embers, and Truth Burns Through Lies. Sensational Distraction, if you really do want to MC for your friends, if you want to draw attention away from them or make them look better, if you're going to be that kind of Ikoma, Sensational Distraction is for you. That's when you make a social skill fire check. You can spend opportunity, and when interacting with characters who aren't you, they count your vigilance as 1 lower per op spent, but 1 higher for you. So it makes it harder for you to shenanigans things, but it makes it easier for your friends to do so, which is important. Draw attention to yourself. Can be very useful if you're that kind of character. Stirring the Embers, when you make a social skill fire check targeting another character, you can spend a fire to pick one of their known distinctions, so a type of advantage, until the end of the scene. When that advantage applies to a check, they can reroll up to 3 dice instead of 2. So this is just like when you're trying to get a character to do better, you pat them on the back and you're like, yo, dude, feel good. You gotta feel good about yourself. I'm gonna inspire you. I'm gonna drop an inspiring performance. You can foster their innate strengths, as it says in the description. So if you want to be a pure support, like, I want just to see you do better, Stirring the Embers is a great skill. It's a great Shuji selection to pick. And honestly, they're only rank 1 techniques. You may probably end up picking all of these at some point. This should just be what your priority is. And then lastly, Truth Burns Through Lies. So this isn't the most direct, but remember, you're in Ikoma. As an Ikoma Courtier, as an Ikoma Bard, you're a historian and storyteller, too, not just a negotiator. So, Truth Burns Through Lies is when you make a scholar skill check with fire to assess a character's story. You can spend an op to figure out where the single point of failure and what you need to do to verify their point is. So, it lets you pick apart other people's arguments and, like, figure out if there's, like, one thing that holds on to what they're going for, right? Like, is there one thing in here that if I pull this apart, or if I verify it, their whole statement is true or false, kind of thing. It's very useful for you. That's probably your lowest priority, unless you're doing this in a specific way, but you could definitely be a more quiet, scholarly character. So, hey, so Water Shuji, rank 1 to 2. As noted, theoretically, you should have had all the XP you need to acquire both of the current, anyway, rank 2 Water Shujis before you get to rank 2. So, I recommend perhaps the rank 1s. So, All in Jest is good for you, again, if you're playing a bit of more of a provocateur, a distractor. So, All in Jest is when you make a water check with a number of social skills, or even commerce. If you forfeited honor as part of the check, you can basically slurp your honor back by spending extra water ops. So this can kind of offset if you're trying to do something a little bit shady, a little bit shifty. To be like, oh, hey, if you forfeited honor to call somebody out, say something rude, appeal to their base desires, you can kind of shenanigans your way out of it a little bit, and you have to sacrifice less honor. Maybe not even any honor, to forfeit. So this can be really good if you're playing that kind of character. But maybe you are a perfectly honorable Ikoma, you're not planning on losing any honor to do anything. In that case, Shallow Waters is good. When you make a social skill water versus a character, you can learn one material item or worldly experience they desire, and you can learn their ninja. Pretty useful as a courtier, just to be like, oh shit, they want something. And then Well of Desire, because you've got Tributaries of Trade. Well of Desire goes very well because that's when you present a gift, you basically kind of figure out ways to stress them out about it. Very good for your character to, like I said, shenanigans their way into getting people around getting what you want with gifts or pressuring people, that kind of thing. I would say probably your priority is maybe Shallow Waters first, and then Well of Desire, with All Ingest being your minimum priority, unless you're specifically being, like I said, a little bit shifty. But you can kind of see where you're going through here. Like, if you're a friendly, I'm going to use gifts to kind of like manipulate the situation, get people on my good side, or force them to take penalties. Well of Desire works pretty good. Shallow Waters is just great as more ways to read people and give you more ammo. And All Ingest is good if you are the type of character who wants to be able to say things and get away with it, basically. And then at the next one, you've got rank 1 to 3 Earth Shuji. So technically, you should probably have bought some of these beforehand. Like, I put Ancestry on Earth on here. When you make a Scholar or Social check targeting a character with Earth, you can learn facts about them. That's a rank 1 Shuji. You probably should have bought that earlier anyway. But in case you didn't, it counts now. And this is a good opportunity to talk about stuff that you can technically acquire that's only on your curriculum at one point. So Ancestry on Earth is a really good one. Civility Foremost is a rank 2. That's a rank below this one, so you could have picked it up earlier, but maybe you didn't. But that means that characters have to forfeit honor and suffer strife to make attack or scheme actions against you in certain circumstances. You have to be making a commander courtesy check to claim protection for an individual of your choice and kind of spread it around. Very useful for, keeping people safe in a situation that's maybe not as punchy. Like, hey, maybe you are a little bit of a martial character, but your friend is not. Like, if you're playing a very social game, you want to be like, whoa, you can't attack this dude. Or, hey, it works on scheme actions too, so it works in social conflicts as well. Honest Assessment is on here. That's another one that's rank 1. You probably should have picked that up anyway, especially if you're playing that more supportive Ikoma, like the one that would pick up Stirring the Embers, where basically you pick a target's disadvantage and can drop. You can basically make them ignore it and be like, no, dude, the fact that you're blind doesn't matter, or the fact that you're a shitty liar doesn't matter. Whatever their disadvantage is, you can be like, hey, find a way to apply honest assessment to somebody politely. Very useful for your support build. Same with Stonewall Tactics. That's another rank 1. To kind of like, when you make a social or a martial arts skill, that's a good one. So any of those could have been picked up. Weight of Duty is another one. So this kind of leaves you with, because there's only one rank 3 Earth Shuji at the moment, Touchstone of Courage, which is basically during an intrigue, duel, or skirmish, each target increases their composure by your Earth ring, this persistence to the end of the scene. Also, for mass battle, discipline increases. You can also heal strife or panic. So Touchstone of Courage is, I think, really key for your character. It's probably the one you're going to want to pick up at this point, but I felt the need to mention stuff like the other Earth Shujis at a lower rank, just in case. But yeah, Honest Assessment's a really good pick for you. Not Honest Assessment. Honest Assessment is a really good pick for you, but Touchstone of Courage makes a lot of sense for this rank, because it's the first time you can take it. And this character to just be like, hey, I'm here. Everything's cool. Everybody's good now. Your composure is much higher. Woo, go us. Go team. Very key if you're building that supportive type Ikoma. And so, next at rank 4, you can pick rank 1 to 4 Air Shuji. So, in this case, I ignored a lot of the lower level stuff. Like, if you really wanted to take Artisan's Appraisal or Cadence, you could have done that way earlier. Now we're now at rank 4, okay? So, I'm just going to ignore the rank 1s. You're way too high. Rank 4 is way too high to be taking these as your key ones, especially when you've got more relevant ones. So, I will allow Prey on the Weak, because that is a rank 2, but that's really key to your character. As a scheme action, make a really easy courtesy air check targeting a compromised character. They either have to immediately unmask or they lose glory, and you can learn stuff about them or things when you do that. That's really key, I think, for your character, but once again, that's only rank 2. You probably could have picked that up earlier. But it is in your curriculum at this point if you wanted to learn it. So then there's Wind Blows Both Ways when you make a courtesy or performance with air. You can make it so you can spend opportunity on another target to make it so that the target receives glory. They receive one extra glory per opportunity, or when they forfeit or stake glory, they must forfeit or stake 1 less. Oh no, they must increase the amount. That's right. Sorry, I'm reading that wrong. The next time they forfeit or stake glory to do something, they must spend an additional, or stake or forfeit an additional 1 glory. for the rest of the scene. So this is really good. It's only rank 3, but this is a really decent one if you are actually rolling that air ring a lot. Like we said, maybe you're not. You might not be, because that's not your character build, but if you are, it's a really good selection because you can use it to subtly enhance another person's fame, enhance the accomplishments of another, or diminish the success of another, kind of like, whoop, and just kind of like reduce them down, keep them going. More likely, though, you're going to pick Wolf's Proposal, which is basically make your honor look higher or lower than it needs to be. It's the same, basically, as Regal Bearing, so that's probably the one you're going to want to pick up, but maybe you delayed picking up Wind Blows Both Ways until this rank. So, the final batch is Void Shuji. So, this is rank 1 to 5. Once again, not going to talk about Courtier's Resolve. You could have totally taken that earlier if you wanted to. This is your one opportunity to, in curriculum, take Lord Akoto's Roar, the special Lion Shuji technique. Once per game session, make a TN1 command Void. That's pretty good, targeting each hostile character with a number of range bands equal to your school rank. If you succeed, you daze them. And if you succeed with lots of extra op, one other friendly character can try and attack them. Once again, though, that's rank 2. You probably could have picked that up earlier, but it's on my list as a recommendation anyway. So the more serious ones, though, are the 3 actual higher ranked Void Shuji. So all arts are 1. You can use this with martial arts, games, or performance to rapidly absorb information about a new activity that you've run into. You can pick up a new form of art. You can pick up a new weapon. You can pick up a new game. You intuit how to play. You do not play any TN increases, increase to dealing something new to you. And you can reduce the TN of your next check. You're not tagged as an artisan, but you are a performing artist, if you follow me, similar to how Shosuro is. Like, you may be picking up games, you may be picking up performance, I guess. Yeah, because there's no artisan skills in this, so it's a little weird. But it's new weapon, new instrument, new song, dance, whatever. So anytime you need to do something new for the first time, this can help you out to, like, pick it up instantly and be good. Little lowball rank, though, for the rank 5. A Samurai's Fate, you make a TN5 command check. If you succeed in a skirmish, each target ignores critical strikes of severity lower than your Void Ring. Basically, they don't take damage. They don't take the effects until the scene ends, at which point the injuries take effect, so they don't realize how badly they're beat up for low-ranking stuff, because you're Void Ring, plus your bonus successes. So, like, if you roll really well, it's a TN5, so it's hard, but if you, like, super explode, you can be like, oh shit, you didn't even realize you're dead, dude. And if you do it on a mass battle, you get a special bonus ability to your cohort. Really good choice for you if you're playing that more supportive role. And then Rouse the Soul. When you make a social skill void or a theology void check targeting one or more characters, you get an executional opportunity spend. You can slap a condition off them. That's Rouse the Soul. You're probably going to want to pick a Samurai's Fate or Rouse the Soul because, like we said earlier, you could easily have an opportunity to take Lord Akoto's Roar. All arts are 1 at earlier ranks. And you may even have picked up a Samurai's Fate already, but you don't have to. You may have saved it, like we said, to increase your point when it matters. Both of these are supportive Ikoma type abilities. Like, you go, hey you, be better, ignore criticals, or hey you, let me scoot that condition that's off you. Which includes, by the way, Afflicted is one of them, so you can, like, talk people out of being tainted, kind of. Unconscious is another. So you can try and work that in to be like, hey, can you hear me? I'm going to talk in your dreams. Oh shit, that snapped you out of it. I like I said, finding opportunities to maybe use some of these is kind of weird, but whatever. Also, hey, you can even keep, if you have both, if you've picked up both, and you probably should, you can kind of chain them together, because that gives you a good excuse to make a social skill command void test and then spend opportunity on it. So yeah, you can kind of see from these selections that, like I said, there's a couple different ways. You can run an Ikoma Bard as very shifty. You can take stuff, like we said, like All in Jest, like Prey on the Weak, or Wind Both. One of the applications of Wind Both Ways, to be like, woohoo, I'm gonna put some debuffs on you. I'm gonna get up in there and I'm gonna make you not as good as you think you are. We've talked about other stuff too, like Sear the Wound is something you get access to in this curriculum, so you can be that kind of direction. You can be a purely supportive. You can drop stuff like Stirring the Embers, Honest Assessment, Touchstone of Courage, You can use that application to win birth both ways. Like we said, Samurai's Fate, rouse the soul kind of stuff. Be like, woo, you are better than you think you are. I'm going to tell you how good you are. I'm going to tell everybody how good you are. You're great. And then there's kind of an in-between area where you're being a more historian. You're like, I'm going to figure stuff out. I'm going to learn things. I'm going to do stuff that requires social and scholar skills and stuff. Truth burns through lies. All arts are one. Stuff like that. So, a very interesting kind of way. And obviously, you can also, if you have enough XP, you have enough direction, you can take all of these, beat all of those things at once. Well, you can have the ability to do any of those things at any given time. You probably, because of, naturally, you'll notice all these different elements and rings, you'll probably not be able to activate or proc all these abilities at once. But you might be able to make yourself flexible enough to, move through different modes and so on. All right, let's breeze through those last little bits. Ooh, sorry, still scratchy. And talk about the clan and family stuff. And this is actually kind of relevant because your ability actually explicitly mentions the Lion Clan. So, Lion Clan, your ring is water, your skill is tactics, your status is 35 because you're a core, what I call a core clan. You're right up there in the heart of the empire, right next to that capital there, right next to that emperor. One of his 3 hands. And your family's choices are Akodo, Ikoma, Kitsu, and Matsu. So, yeah, pretty good choice for your Ikoma. Tactics is a skill that kind of works for you, gives you some options. You'll always be welcome in a mass combat, at least. And water is one of your key rings, a really good one for you to start off. Gives you flexibility. I know some people are like, why aren't the L5R? But water's, really... I think water was strength in the old system. And water in general is a ring of, flexibility, tactical precision, awareness, and being like, yo, let's be ready for anything and have a broader understanding. And then, if specifically you're like Ikoma or Matsu, you can be like, I am fire. I'm angry. Do lots of yelling. Grr. We'll have to talk about the Matsu school at some point. But, anyway, status and families. This is one of those cases where if you are not a member of the Ikoma family, right? We'll talk about other lion well, if you're not a member of the Lion Clan, we'll talk about other lion families in a second, including the Ikoma. But if you're not part of the Lion Clan, I do feel like it's kind of weird if you would be trained in the Ikoma schools. It's not unheard of. I just feel like the Ikoma style is not necessarily universally applicable. It's kind of a specific relationship they have as part of the lion. So it might be a little bit weird if you were out of clan trained, but I wouldn't say I'm against it outright. There could be a lot of very interesting things you could accomplish there. But other than that, not a whole lot of synergy. Not a lot to talk about. Let us move on from talking about the clan of Akodo and talk about the families, which includes Akodo and also Ikoma. So, speaking of those families, you got 4 in Lion Clan. First up is the Akodo family, the core family. Their rings are air or earth. Their skills are command and government. 44 glory, starting wealth, 5 koku. Lion's not a super rich clan. So yeah, synergy-wise, the rings are kind of contrapposto to your school, but as we talked about, you are Captain Shuji. Maybe you'll want to take an air or earth approach, Actually, seeing this, I was kind of like, am I sure about that? Akodo or air? But hey, I took my notes from there. So, well, and actually funny, we'll get into Ikoma, and they're actually air, too, so it's funny. But I'm not sure that air necessarily directly suits the nature of this school. It very much sounds like it's cool. Like I've alluded to, supposedly the school in Courts of Stone for Lion is Ikoma Shadow, so the air probably suits that a lot better. Earth, though, that's fairly decent. Fact-based recall, all that kind of stuff would be really good for you. Command is one of your core skills, as we've discussed. It's not at core of your school, but you pick it up later. So it's perfectly good to start there. You get a little bit of government opportunities later, so picking up government early is a family thing, and using that for law and legal history and stuff, that works. And I expect that since the Ikoma is the only quote-unquote social family of the lion, that there are probably plenty of Akodo who are of a more social and less martial bent who end up going to one of the Ikoma schools. At least unless there's some kind of Courtier Akodo school lurking in the winds. So the Ikoma family themselves, their rings are air or water. They get composition and performance. Their glory is only 40. Start with 5 koku. This is a solid choice, obviously. Perfect synergy. You can max out water, and then that would roll over. because remember, you start with 1, so then you could take, if you get water from Lion, you take another water from Ikoma. Oh, hey, that water you get, you can't exceed 3. You get a free boost in any ring. Or you can specifically take air, if you so chose. And, double up that way. And actually, start with, 2 air. If you wanted to be more of a shifty type character, like I said, I don't know if that's intrinsically the Bard. The Bard is a lot about friendliness or overt emotion manipulation. You can do some subtleties in there, but that's kind of like late game. You kind of practice your subtlety a little bit. The skills are perfect. Composition is, while you don't have any direct use out of composition, it's a skill that makes sense for your character, and you can probably leverage it. Performance is also very key to what you do as a Bard, so it works out a lot. Kitsu family. Rings are void or water. That's a pretty interesting selection. Your skills are meditation and theology. Your glory is 40. And for Koku, so Kitsu's probably not the most synergetic for skills. You got a water choice in there, so that means you can, like we said, you can max out that water ring, or you can take void and be more of a spiritual social character. You do actually have meditation in your curriculum, way later, so you could go that direction. And like we said, you can do some weird duelist stuff with the Ikoma family, or the Ikoma school, so Kitsu could combo into that well if you're you weren't born a Shugenja, you didn't want to be a medic, so they, sent you off somewhere to learn how to talk to people. There's got to be some sociable Kitsu, considering they're weird lion people. Theology, that doesn't really have any, there's some stuff you can do later, Rouse the Soul. I'm trying to remember which Shuji it was, but Rouse the Soul, way later, can key off theology. But in general, it's not necessarily an area of your expertise as an Ikoma Bard. You're more non-spiritual history, like culture and government kind of stuff. But you could make an interesting build here. And Matsu is Earth or Fire. You get Command and Fitness. Glory 44, Wealth 5 Koku. Matsu here fits perfectly well. Hey, Fire. Fire's one of your rings. That means you've got max Fire now. Or you could tap up on Earth. A great starting selection, especially if you want to play up your emotional provocateur angle. Command's a core skill, and you can't go wrong with fitness. Helps you do stuff. Helps you be fit. Any of these can be a really good, interesting fit. And like I've said several times, we're not going to go through every single clan and every single family you could be in combo with this school. In 5th edition, there's no real disincentive, there's no real penalty. If you can come up with a good story reason for it, your character can be from any school. But actually, literally running through all the family and clan options would take forever. So we mostly focus on Lion. And like I said, I have a hard time picturing non-Lion Ikoma. You were gonna, marry in there or something. There had to be some reason why you got in there to be the Ikoma. I guess if you're trying to teach historians, but the Bard is, very performance-based. I don't know. It seems weird. The various Kakita schools are merit-based. That I can see a lot of people slipping into. Don't know about the Ikoma. Maybe I need to do some more reading on that. Anyway, that's that. So that's a wrap. We're at the end. We talked about all the stuff. Talked about your school starting stuff. Talked about your techniques. Hopefully you kind of got the vibe. Like I said, you can choose to go a few different routes as an Ikoma Bard. Like I said, focus on different aspects, different skills. I actually walked that back a little. I'm like, courtesy. So as a conclusion, now that I've actually run through the whole thing and actually spoke it out loud, courtesy is a little weird. Obviously, it keys off quite a few of the Shuji you probably want to take to count for your school, but at the same time, in specific skills anyway, the school really focuses on performance and command as your key social skills, but you don't start with command, but you can pick it up from, families, so it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of different skills you can lean on as an Ikoma Bard, and that kind of diversifies, so feel free to figure out your own flavor if you're making an Ikoma Bard and kind of feel what angle you want to work towards. Are you more of an artisty performer, a singer, dancer, instrumentalist? Or are you more of a yelly, I'm going to tell people what to do? Or are you a traditional courtesy type, And we'll work through all that. Ancestors are judging you. So, the PS on this is Courts of Stone soon. I believe the official release should happen as or about this video is public, or the audio version, to Patreon plug. So, hopefully we'll get more details. I'll have to wait a million years for the PDF, but when that happens, I'll pick it up and I'll review it in the full usual way I've done, break through each of the sections, talk about the stuff. We'll have some discussion of the schools. If the lists of people who got their pre-orders pretty early, a couple of days anyway, early is right, it's kind of an interesting spread. Like, for instance, they say that there's no unicorn school in this at all, but there are 2 crane schools, which, like, there's some mathematical sense behind that, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, that's weird. There's a freaking second Togashi school in there, and I'm like, whoa, you're blowing my mind here. So I'm really eager to take a look at some of this stuff, and some of the things sound interesting. And yes, there is a new Ikoma in there. If correct, it sounds like they did a weird thing. So they called the Ikoma Shadows, but there's a Daidoji Spy Master. And I'm like, that's a little weird. You're kind of mishmashing the names there, FFG, if accurate. You know, like I said, no, I don't even have pictures, so on the internet, you know, no pics, no proof, but whatever. There's also some interesting titles and stuff. Bring some things to mind. So obviously, like I said, we'll talk about that more later. Yeah, so the next one of these, which will be sometime next month, will be on a Shugenja to round that out. Probably for the sake of rounding out all the clans, it'll be an Ayuchi Shugenja to kind of talk about what their special flavor is, and from there it'll be just whatever I think about. So if you have any schools you kind of want to like get a crack at, you want to let me take either a bird's eye view at, or you want that kind of deep dive in like what are some interesting directions I can take this character. Leave suggestions in the comments and go through. Hopefully, like I said, the audio is a little bit cleaner on this one. No guarantees. There have been several times where, like, hey, unfortunately, I have an idle thing which might affect, like, my voice is probably going in and out a little bit. That's because I'm pivoting side to side in my chair because I'm just talking. Like, there's no script to this. So, sorry if I did that. I'll try and catch that more in the future. I caught myself doing that as, like, an absent-minded, time filler thing. Sorry about that. Hopefully not too distracting, but hey, we're done. That's Ikoma Bard. And yeah, I'll probably, if the Ikoma Shadow thing is correct, I'll probably talk about them in future because that's an interesting concept. But we'll get them more in there. The preview's confirmed by Yushi Death Dealer, and so we'll see some more interesting stuff. And we'll move on from there. And like I said, hey, my home group is actually getting a little excited, so I'll have to grab some people up. And hey, if you're in the wider community and you're interested in maybe playing a little L5R with us, hop on our Discord, let us know. Speaking of which, so I'll run through the outro. If you like this video, give it a like. Keep it populated. Heck, even give it a dislike if you don't. Like, I'm pretty sure the last one got a few dislikes, but like, at least that lets me know people are actually here and like they were engaged enough to dislike it. So if you don't like this, give it a dislike too, and I'll try and refine the format a little bit or refine the quality. But like, if you did like it, also totally give it a like because that keeps stuff in vogue and lets me know you paid attention. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. What do you think about the Ikoma family? What do you think about this Ikoma school? What's your speculation on the future Ikoma school that's coming out? Stuff like that. Let me know. Let me know any suggestions you have for future schools you'd really like to take a deep dive in. And like this kind of started as a mechanical but also a fluff examination. If you'd like me to go deeper dive on the fluff and lore, I can try and do that. That means there's going to be another extra 30 fucking minutes to these videos, but I can try and talk more. Can't shut me up. If you're new here and you want to see more of these, subscribe. Like I said, I'm trying to do Enter the Dojo now twice a month. I do regular book reviews of L5R stuff, novellas. There's going to be a Dragon novella sometime. I got to get that when that comes out. That'll be super interesting. Talk about source books and stuff. Talk about general stuff. At some point, there will be actual plays of L5R. We got some other actual plays on the channel if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So subscribe, even if you're already subscribed, consider hitting that bell for notifications so you always know we post a new video, because there's not like a weekly schedule of when I post a Enter the Dojo. It's just I decide that this week I've got to make one and then I post it when I'm done, kind of thing. So, notifications, you can get an immediate notice when you want to take some stuff. And like it says at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get the audio version of this in a little downloadable audio, no extra video. So that means you lose the little visuals, but you can take it with you, keep it in your pocket, put it on your phone. It's a lot slimmer. Maybe it doesn't suck up your cell phone data. And I'll be with you then. All right, so I will see you guys in the next video, whatever form that takes. Keep your eyes out for a Courts of Stone review. And like I said, pretty sure, 99% sure that next video will be Aichi Shugenja. Talk about Meishodo. All right, I'm out. And this Akodo next to me, he's super angry at you right now. He's judging you so much. Judging you so hard if you don't hit that like button.